Hello and welcome back to the Who Cares Anyway podcast. We are live and it is Friday night, ladies and gentlemen. And, for once, I don't think my throat is as fogged up and cloggy as it was a little bit earlier in the week and also last week. So, hopefully I sound a little better, a little more normal. But then again, Kees is probably just going to tell me that I sound like shit regardless. Kees, would you agree with that sentiment?
No.
Oh.
Dude, I have heard you, with the fucked up voice, but today's not one of those days.
Okay.
So,
Well,
yeah, no, I can't say that. Anyway,
thank
how's
you.
it going, guys? I have weekend. Chris does not because those things just don't exist for him apparently. But it's those 2 days in the week that you're off, Saturday and Sunday, for the people who do have it, and I have that. So. Happy weekend to everyone. I hope you enjoy yours. This is the start of it. And I'm definitely enjoying mine so far, even though it's been very brief because I got off work a few hours ago. I'm looking forward to the show. Speaking of, well, actually, I do want to say one thing about my day because
Yep.
I have been living in my new apartment for a few months now, and over the months, a couple of issues have been piling up. First of all, when I already started living here, I have a shower cabin with two doors. One of the two doors was crooked, so that already needed fixing, but I didn't say anything yet until I had more things that I wanted to address to my landlord. But then a few days after I started living here, for some reason my the light in my living room stopped working. Well, that's inconvenient. I didn't know why up until today. Then the light in my bedroom stopped working a few weeks ago. Weeks? What am I saying? At least a month ago. And then a few weeks ago, the light in my toilet stopped working. And that was the last straw, essentially, where I was like, okay, I definitely need to get this fixed. So I messaged my landlord. I got a response, and then I got called last week by a guy who was like, okay, I can fix this. Today, finally, he came by with a colleague of his, and they fixed the light in, well, my bedroom. They explained me why my bedroom and my living room were not working. They changed the switch on the one in my toilet because the light was working, but the switch was fucked up, and they fixed my shower. So I'm actually very happy with today because all that stuff got fixed. That's good.
And this has been D2A Poop Talk with Kees. I'll take a cheers to that.
Cheers.
Speaking of cheers, actually, I do
Hey,
want to.
sometimes I'm allowed to, tell the people about my life,
Of
what's going
course,
on in my life.
by all means, it's like, well, and I have to respect that about you because you're a little bit more open than I am in that regard. Because let's face facts, you guys don't really want to hear too much about my boring ass life, but I will say this.
I spoke to them about my boring ass life. Shit in my apartment. Who gives a fuck? But it's called the Who Cares Anyway podcast, so we're allowed to say that shit. Come
Exactly.
on.
Exactly.
God.
But yeah, no.
Hello,
I'll
everyone. Chat.
yes, yes. You know, and to be fair, it's like at least for me, I guess I just don't really talk about it because there's not really much to talk about. I just kind of go about my day and watch movies and talk to the rest of the D2A crew in our Facebook chat, and we talk shit at each other, and it's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and I actually was reminded before we went live. I do see that one of our biggest fans, Brian Fernandez, is your birthday tomorrow, sir. So cheers to you and happy birthday.
Happy birthday in advance. Actually, it is already the 5th of October where I live, so I can already say happy birthday to you. Cheers and have a good day.
There you go. Absolutely. Yeah, no, and guys, tonight we're going to have a fun little deep dive into one of my favorite genres of film, and a genre that I'm so glad that after 3 years of knowing Kees, he's finally being a little more open and giving a fair shot to it. And sure, not everything's worked, but the stuff that he likes, and I'm just happy he's giving it a shot regardless. And yes, it is October, so now it's time to get spooky, time to get a little creepy. Ooh. So yeah, we're gonna be getting into some horror stuff, and it's gonna be fantastic, just to say the least. And I was debating whether or not to do a review of Joker on the show, but you know what?
You can do a quick review.
Actually, here's what I think we'll do. I think I'll wait till next week. And actually, here's what I think we're going to do. Since, spoiler alert for next week's show, half of that show will be pre-taped. Because I unfortunately could not get Mr. Bibiani and Mr. Seibel to appear on Friday night's show, but I am doing a pre-tape interview with them. So what I think we'll do, Case, why don't we do this? Do you think between now and next Friday you'll have seen it?
No, because I need to wait until Arena is here next month so we can see it together. We made that deal. I'm sorry.
Damn, I tried. I was gonna say let's do a spoiler talk, but shouldn't do that then.
All right.
That's fine. Okay. All right. So then, yes.
Sorry, I have a girlfriend. I have a life.
Yeah. Rub it in. Yeah. Yes. Oh yes. There's that sweet spot. I'm sure the audio listeners are just like, "What the fuck are you two
What the
on about?"
fuck is even happening?
I'm sure the chat's just like, "What the fuck is going on?" Look, guys, it's been a long day. Okay, that's all I've got.
Us? Who gives a fuck?
Exactly. So now, before we get into the regular news that I had set to go. You actually came to a piece of news that came straight out of New York Comic Con that, yeah, I'm excited about too. Case.
I mean, who isn't?
Let's talk about the new Chiss Thrawn trilogy. Let's talk about this new stuff.
Guys. These books are so fucking good, honestly. Like, people have been saying that the original Thrawn trilogy written by Timothy Zahn is like the end-all, be-all of Star Wars books. And they've been saying that for almost 30 years. Because to be fair, I've read Heir to the Empire, or I've listened to Heir to the Empire, the audiobook. And yeah, it was pretty fucking great, so I can imagine why. And I have read Thrawn and Alliances, and I'm currently reading Thrawn Treason. And yeah, they're pretty fucking great as well. So Zahn has not lost his touch. He's still good. And now, this is a spoiler for the first book. If you haven't read it, well, it's already been announced, kind of. In the first book, what we find out is that Thrawn hasn't actually been having that hard of a time rising through the ranks of the Empire. He already had an inside line, and he already was exploring the unknown regions before the events of the book actually happened. So now we're getting new books by Timothy Zahn about Thrawn, about how he was exploring the unknown region. Yes, and fucking yes. All of the yes. I need it now, but I need to wait a little bit.
We need to wait just a little bit. Although, from how I've been hearing it, I almost feel like Zahn is going to sort of go with almost like a Star Trek approach to it. In terms of, like, how he's going to explore strange new worlds and seek out new life and new civilizations and whatnot. Because this is the unknown regions. They're named that for a reason. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, God. The unknown regions. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Chimera. It's ongoing. Yes!
Oh my God. Yeah, as K Wolf said, hashtag all of the yes. And yes. Robert Adams, I see you are also in the chat. Always good to see you. Tyler, always great to see you as well. Oh, sorry, Case, please, if you had a thought, go.
No, but this is really cool because I do actually feel This might even tie somewhat into what happens in Rise of Skywalker, or
Ooh.
maybe in other TV shows coming up, where we haven't seen a whole lot of the unknown regions yet in any of the TV movie medium. It's only been heavily, well, involved in legends.
Yeah.
Uh, Canon has only scratched the surface so far. So, yeah, there's a lot of exciting a lot of exciting things that could come from this. More world building, more exploring. Yeah, it's literally Star Trek, exploring new worlds, new civilizations, new alien races, but that in Star Wars, and that is so interesting to me that I'm like, yes.
Yes, and that's why I'm gonna stop making excuses. Get some copies of the audiobooks of the new
Yeah,
Thrawn trilogy and just listen to them because this idea intrigues the hell out of me. Especially as that guy who does love both Star Trek and Star Wars. Yes, I
same,
want this. Like
same.
exactly. So for both of us, this is like and this is kind of new territory for Star Wars to try to go to. Cuz
I I welcome it.
exactly, same and that was one of the things I loved about old Legends was when we got to go to new planets and new, explore new civilizations like uh excuse me, like the Hapes cluster in The Courtship of Princess Leia from that novel, or like when we had uh, the Selkath from Knights of the Old Republic, hell, the Rakatan from Knights of the Old Republic. Like
Yeah,
there's so much to this galaxy that is left to explore, and you guys know me, I'm just like nom 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 nom. I eat it up. I love it. I consume it. So yeah, no,
yeah, and
this
what's also very cool is like in all of those legend things, they introduced a whole lot of species planets and whatnot that they eventually used in movies
or
or
Clone
TV
Wars or
shows.
Rebels.
Because like you mentioned the Selkath, Selkath appear in the Clone Wars TV show, um, and George Lucas liked Coruscant so much that he included it in the Phantom Menace. So yeah, it's definitely things that like this is how you expand the galaxy, and this is what I've been wanting from Star Wars to do, and hopefully this will lead to more stuff in movies and TV shows. Because no, I think I've said it before, but I'll just say it again. The movies are a little bit too shy to explore the galaxy, explore other things that we haven't seen yet. They're sticking to the 66 years between the Phantom Menace and the Last Jedi because for some reason they feel safe in that space. Go somewhere.
Try new things. And here's the thing, like it, we're more than happy when you go back to the well because there's still stuff that's going on. There's still stories that can be told in the 67 years. But let's be a little creative here. Like hell, I actually heard a pitch on Rule of 2 this week that basically pitched Kevin Feige essentially telling the story of George Lucas's story treatments that Disney bought for 7, 8, and 9, but essentially set it in the future in the Star Wars universe. So set it like 100 years later after Rise of Skywalker. That would be cool. And plus, this way, because if anybody could get into sort of tackling what George was trying to go for, like with the whole understanding the wills and how it's the wills that really controls the Force through the midichlorians and whatnot, like Kevin Feige could do that pretty easily, I'd say.
Just don't use the term midichlorians. I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one too. But still, and to be honest, if that's the route Kevin Feige winds up going, yes, please. But no, that's something that's I think that could certainly happen. I kind of want it. Excuse me. I kind of want it to happen now. Sorry, guys. I've had a lot of tea and beer in the last 5 minutes, so I got a little bit of the belch. Got a little bit of the belch going on.
Well, luckily it's not the big burp that you once
Oh
let
my
out.
god. My god, well, right now would be the perfect time for one of those. Just go burp. But All right. All right.
You want me to be incapable for the next 5 minutes?
No. All right. But let's start diving into some news that's going on. And
Wait, okay. Before K-Wolf, we saw the Maw visualized on screen in Solo. Just saying.
yes, we did. And it's not even technically; it's just that we did. And it
No,
ripped.
we full on did.
Yeah.
We're approaching the mall. We're approaching the mall. I don't think that would be something we want to be approaching, but they were there.
But what would be fun is like a. Here, you know what? Yeah, screw it. We're off topic. How about picture this case? So you and I both actually quite like Pirates 3 at World's End.
Yeah,
Picture a Jedi cruiser and a Sith cruiser having a space battle over the Maw.
yeah. Maelstrom. Actually, they're close.
Maelstrom! Yeah.
No. But it's very close to the Arcanian Maelstrom. I'm not entirely sure. It's also in Solo.
Yes, Arcanian.
Oh, there you go.
Now, you know what? Okay. I'm going to save the idea for later. I think I know where to use it. All right. Well, speaking of things that are certainly interesting, albeit scary in the worst possible way, let's talk about Birds of Prey.
Do we have to? Yeah, okay, we do. Look, I'll first off say, I actually enjoy Suicide Squad a lot. It's very entertaining. I can watch it. I prefer watching it over a whole lot of other comic book movies, even some of the MCU movies. Mostly because of the soundtrack. And one of my favorite things in that movie is Harley Quinn. I think Harley Quinn is well portrayed by. Look, I don't have the faintest idea of how the character is in the comics or anything else, but I just know that I enjoy Margot Robbie as Harley Quinn, and I can believe that. And then I see the Birds of Prey trailer, and I'm just like, hello there. That's the only reaction I had to that. Other than that, I was just looking like, oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really have thoughts. I might see it.
I just hope that Ewan can get a chance to do something like that, and then maybe let's say Harley Quinn can be like Black Mask. Because
Yeah, Black Mask.
I actually liked it. I liked the trailer, but I'm still nervous as hell going into the movie because, let's face facts, Shazam was awesome, but we got lucky. We got lucky on
That
that.
DCU movie.
Yeah, but I think we got lucky considering DCEU's track record. And of course,
Well,
sorry.
the biggest issue with the DCEU is them trying to push their team up movies when you should focus more on solo movies. Now, this is kind of a solo movie because it's Harley Quinn and her posse.
Mm.
But I have doubts about that posse. And I also have doubts how much people like Harley Quinn to go see this movie because, Suicide Squad still has only 26% on Rotten Tomatoes, and not a lot of people actually say that they like the movie. Not a lot of people did. I do know that from what what I heard from Suicide Squad, people did like Harley Quinn, so that's a good thing. But the question is, how much did they like her to see her now in her own movie with some extra people?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I'm one of those people who absolutely did love Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn. I thought she brought so much energy to the role. She she did so much to bring a bright spot to an otherwise pretty bad movie all across the board. Like, it's her and Will Smith that I think make that movie, and El Diablo
Yeah.
to an extent. I liked El Diablo as well, but
Actually, the thing is, I like the Suicide Squad, the people,
yes,
but the story and the story is extremely bland, and the villain is just straight up terrible because Cara Delevingne could not act to save her life. Yeah.
pretty much.
God.
Yeah. So,
She won't bite.
yeah, I fingers
Drink.
crossed. Yeah, drink. But yeah, so fingers crossed. I'm gonna see this movie regardless because I did love Shazam, and you
Yeah.
know, I mean, at least in terms of the critics, the DCU is 3 for 4. So if they can just get this next one to tie them up, and then they can go upward and just keep focusing on solo movies before they build to the next Justice League movie, that's all I'm asking. Give us a good product that I want to believe in, but I'm nervous as fuck. Kind of.
Okay, yeah, 3 for 4, but like 4 are fresh. Oh no,
No, I'm saying
crap,
3
no.
are fresh, 4 are rotten.
I always forget that Man of Steel is rotten. That is a travesty. That honestly is a travesty. That movie is good.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's kind of how. Again, it's the same thing. Why is Saw rotten? It shouldn't be rotten.
Mm. And why is Face Off at 92%?
He said it. Okay, all right.
I did.
But no, so to segue into my chances for something's chances happening. So, Avengers Endgame. The Oscar campaign has officially begun. And they're going for literally pretty much every category across the board. Visual effects, director for the Russos, best picture, cinematography, best score, best everything. Minus minus 2 categories that Kees, you and I are going to have a problem with. No campaign push for Best Actor for Robert Downey Jr. and no campaign push for Best Actress for Karen Gillan. Disney, what are you doing? Now, that doesn't mean that, Karen Gillan and Robert Downey Jr. can't get in regardless, because by all means, if enough people vote for them, of course they'll get the nomination. And I think if they get the nomination, they'll have a good shot at winning.
By the way, they would not be. They would not be nominated for a lead, but for supporting, because it's an ensemble cast. It's an ensemble.
It is ensemble cast, but
Robert Downey Jr. You know what the issue is? Chris Evans is also a lead. I personally think that. Or whatever. By the way, Karen Gillan would definitely get a supporting actress because she's no way a lead.
fair, but
Robert
still.
Downey Jr. might have a shot, and it's essentially what would they be pushing for? Oh no, they're not pushing. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, if you want one thing from Endgame that stood out to me in terms of Oscar categories, it's Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man / Tony Stark. Like, he has been one of the best things, period, about the entire MCU. He might have already had a chance of supporting actor for Civil War. And,
And that wasn't even his movie.
That's the thing. You could make a case for that. Well, of course, supporting actor, not lead actor. Lead actor would be Chris Evans. But if he didn't get it for that one, he sure as hell deserves it for this one. And honestly, out of all the things that this movie could be nominated for, it's Robert Downey Jr. there's nothing else that I would really consider this movie Oscar worthy for. Well, I mean, I hope this gets all the nominations to finally get over the curse of big blockbuster comic book movies cannot get Oscar nominations, especially the competitive Oscars, because they can still get like a visual effects or sound nom or whatever, but the competitive ones, picture, director, actor, screenplay, I wanted to get that. But if there's if there's any of the nominations that I think this movie deserves, it's supporting actor. So I don't get it. I honestly don't.
Yeah, well, Engel actually put this quite brilliantly. This is like Lord of the Rings all over again.
Ugh.
And it kills me to this day that Viggo Mortensen or Sean Astin weren't nominated for Best Supporting Actor for Lord of the Rings: Return of the King.
Sean Astin more than Viggo Mortensen, in my opinion.
Well, and actually, and again, you can make the argument that Viggo is the lead of that movie, so he would get lead actor nomination.
Well,
So,
to be fair, the movie is named after him.
fair enough. But, and it frustrates me because what is it that the audience actually connects to when they watch the MCU movies? Sure. The cinematography in a lot of these films is usually pretty good. The scores are usually go from good to great. The visual effects are, pretty cutting edge, and they're awesome.
Actually, I would say that the score is not the best part of the MCU.
I said depending on the film.
Yeah, no, that's true. But the thing is, the score is hit or miss. Usually miss, to be fair. But in terms of like how it's made, like if you look at the categories that the Oscars have, most of the MCU movies are competent. Like they have decent visuals, they have decent sound, sometimes great. That's why they sometimes get an Oscar nom. And in my opinion, Endgame has the same thing. Endgame is competently made, competent cinematography, editing, sound mixing, just everything. But nothing stands out to me in terms of that.
But what is it that drives us to these movies? It's the actors. It's the characters. So the simple fact that once again, just like with the original Star Wars trilogy before it, and just like Lord of the Rings trilogy before it, the MCU gets literally no. It seems like the MCU is going to get no love for its actors. Now, again, between now and the official nominations, could a Karen Gillan or a Robert Downey Jr. or whomever else sneak in? Of course they could. And as much as I want that to happen, I just don't think it's gonna happen, and that kills me.
Until I see the nominations and I actually see their names, I don't believe it will happen. Also, hello.
Oh, yes. Thrawn, our dear old Thrawn 2K5 is in the chat. Brother, how are you doing?
Oh, wait a second. Give me a sec. I can get the entire thing.
Oh, boy.
Hello.
Nice.
Yeah, nice. It's with the rest of the cover.
Nice.
Because that's his profile picture.
It literally is. Yes. Well done. All right. Well, speaking of Disney and things that they now own, for example, 20th Century Fox, owner of the second highest grossing movie of all time, Avatar. Kees, let me slip into Morpheus mode here for a moment.
What if I told you?
What if I told you that Sam Worthington was not going to be the lead in Avatar originally? Originally, Matt Damon was offered $250 million total to be the star of the movie, and he turned it down.
Matt Damon.
Yeah. If James Cameron were to personally come up to you and say, "Hey, listen, buddy, I'm going to give you about $40 million to be in my movie and 10% of the profits," And the fact that you have the gonads to turn that down. You know what? Okay, so you're going to love this. The other reason he turned it down was because he was in the middle of working on the Bourne Ultimatum. He didn't want to fuck up anything with that process. So, you know what, Damon? Good job. Oh, Kees, Avatar took like 3 years to shoot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
First of all, thank you, Matt Damon, for making the Bourne Ultimatum, because that's one of my favorite movies of all time. That movie is fucking awesome. Thank you for finishing that trilogy, doing it justice. Yay. Second, Sam Worthington can be a decent supporting actor. He cannot lead a movie to save his life. Because the thing is, like, I remember him in Everest, a movie from a few years ago, Sam Worthington. He was a side character, and he was good in that movie. But yeah, and anything that I've seen him lead, no. To be fair, I don't think Avatar is terrible. I think it's a decent movie. It's just that for all the praise that I got back 10 years ago, it's 10 years old, by the way.
Jesus.
10 years ago, that movie was everything, and I don't know why. Because the only thing Avatar did was bring 3D back. Okay, whatever. Matt, I'm just trying to picture Matt Damon in this role, and I'm just so bummed by the fact that Matt Damon isn't in this role, because how much better would this movie be with Matt Damon? It would have been so much better. On the other hand, I would not, for the life of me, want him to quit the Bourne Ultimatum and make Avatar, because Avatar would have not been as great even with Matt Damon. But the Bourne Ultimatum would have been nothing without Matt Damon, because, come on, it's called The Bourne, after Jason Bourne, after Matt Damon's goddamn character.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
that is ballsy, yeah. It is ballsy.
And I'll be honest, Matt, hats off to you, sir, because to be honest, if I was in the same position, I would have said the same thing. I'd have been like, no, well, first off, I'm under contract to finish these 3 movies, and B, people love me in this role, so I'm going to finish doing this before I do, your hackneyed poor man's excuse for Pocahontas, that cost $1 billion and luckily made $2 billion to make up for it. So, I don't know. Okay, I'm being a little judgy because you guys know I don't like that movie very much, but.
Well,
yeah.
look. As much as you and other people might not like Pocahontas, at least it has somewhat of an original idea.
Kind of. I mean, it has some original ideas as far as details. The overall story, yeah, we've been seeing that shit for years. But again, it's in the details. That's where it made up for it. And by the time Avatar came out, most of its details we kind of picked up on from these other films that we've already seen.
Well, that's the thing. Avatar is not just based on Pocahontas, but also Dances with Wolves and a whole lot of other movies that we've already
Ferngully, Last
seen.
Rainforest, and so many others. Yeah. So
it's the thing. There is nothing about Avatar that is that great. Besides the fact, well, it's visually interesting, and back in the day when it came out, it brought back 3D to the theaters, and that's why every goddamn movie coming out these days is in 3D.
Pretty much.
And so that's the only thing it did. By the way, this is also interesting. In the Facebook group recently created by Kenneth, the cool guy, as we know him in the chat, the cool guy presents in the name of the Facebook group. He did a poll and he asked, "Is Avatar overrated by today's standard?" Because back in 2009, of course, it was a huge thing and everyone thought it was overrated. Then in the years after, it definitely was overrated because you had the box office records, the Oscar praise, and everyone seemed to love it back in the day. We're 10 years later. 10 years later, I cannot name you a single person who likes Avatar. Everyone thinks it is incredibly overrated, but that doesn't make it overrated anymore, it seems. It just seems that it seems
It's
to be the movie that
properly rated
everyone,
now.
yeah,
It's
by
just
today, it is properly rated. And you can either think it's a good or bad movie. I think it's good enough, like 6, 7 out of 10, which is not that great. But it's a decently, competently made, well made enough movie to be, yeah, a 6 out of 10 at least, and that is a fresh rating in my mind. Um, but it is properly rated because there is no one who loves that movie.
no, and even for me, where if you had to, if you put a gun to my head and said, "Hey, rate this out of 10," I would also give it a 6. But I would say, kind of rough acting from your main lead and
Yeah.
not enough good acting from your supporting characters can make up for what is, in my opinion, a lazy story with amazing visuals.
Yeah, because the visuals are great. The
Oh
sound
yeah,
design is.
it's the same thing as Covenant. You know?
Yeah. Okay, but there is one thing that Covenant has that Avatar doesn't, and that is Michael Fassbender.
Yes.
Because Michael Fassbender is fucking phenomenal as David.
Yes, he's absolutely well shit. And as Walter, I love him in both roles. But you
Yeah.
know, plus Covenant does have it going for it that at least it attempts at some very creative kills.
Yeah.
You know, and I will say I've never seen it. I've never seen a creature rip itself out of someone's spine before, so that was a first. But
Oh yeah, that's true.
yeah,
By the
no.
way, hot take. I prefer Covenant over Alien.
As a little carryover from last week's conversation. All right, all
Yep.
right. But yeah, so look, just in short, Matt Damon, good on you, sir. Good on you for what I will say is making the right choice as far as your career goes. Because let's also face facts. If he had done it, I think he'd still be getting crap about it today.
Potentially.
And I think he's finally back in a good spot. Like the Martian definitely cemented him as one of the great actors of the last 20 years. So
Yeah, no, that was the thing because Matt Damon, after the Bourne Ultimatum, did jack fucking shit for years up until The Martian. That put him back on the map again. Like, oh yeah, he still is a great actor and still can put in a great performance. And if it wasn't for Leonardo DiCaprio and Michael Fassbender, he would have had that Oscar.
oh yeah, oh yeah, easily. But hey, being third place in a stacked year,
That was a
that's not
very sad.
that's not the
That
worst
was
thing
a
in the world.
stacked year for all. That was a stacked year for all actors because if you think that the lead actor was stacked, look at the supporting actors
Woo, woo.
and the least deserving one is.
Ugh, good lord. Yeah. Well, what are you gonna do? Which is kind of how I'm feeling about. Okay, James Franco. Let's talk about James Franco for just a moment, if we may. Um, dude, listen. I think you just need to literally stick to just acting in movies and or directing movies and don't do anything else for the rest of your life ever again because he's currently in a lawsuit right now. Because in his spare time, he was doing some teaching for a college acting course, and part of his syllabus or part of his class included how to master sex scenes. And this required his actors engaging in a sex scene that would be taped, and he would review it as part of their learning experience. Now, because there haven't really been that many forms for kids to sign to make sure that this footage won't wind up in the wrong hands or anything. One of his students is suing because James Franco has a video of her naked, and well, who God knows what he's doing with that. So, oops.
So he is an artist who is in a little bit of a disastrous thing right now.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. I'm not even sorry. I was sitting on that for like a few minutes. James Franco, stick to making movies, please. Because here's the thing. The artist, I love him. The person is a disaster. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's ironic. That is very ironic.
That is incredibly ironic that he directed what is, in my opinion, one of the best films of the decade, The Disaster Artist. And
it is so great.
It is so great. Oh my God, I adore that movie so much.
Yeah, same.
But the person.
He names a movie The Disaster Artist and becomes one.
I mean, okay, there's method acting, and then there's turning yourself into your character. And look, James, I think you need help, and I think you need to just take 5 years off. Get out while you still can, because he's not quite in Kevin Spacey, Harvey Weinstein territory where his career will never recover. But I think he just needs to go away for a while. Sorry, James.
And unfortunately, because of shit like this, he doesn't get an Oscar. Because he deserved it for The Disaster Artist, but because of the controversy, they didn't even nominate him. Which is an atrocity, because I'm like, separate art from the artist. But I also get it with today's Oscars, where they do want to include being a little socially, politically correct, and they
also
want to
being decent people.
Yeah. So he was the only one I felt could have challenged Gary Oldman for that Oscar, but simply because he's a shitty person, he didn't even get nominated.
Yeah. And, well, them's the shits. So what are you gonna do? But, moving on to 2 more stories before we hit the break here. Kees, first week of D2 anniversary, you, me, and Nico talked about our favorite movies.
Mm-hmm.
And naturally, there was a certain trilogy that Nico brought up as his favorite of all time.
And what Star Wars, right?
Yes, absolutely. But now we're getting news that Dean DeBlois, the guy who directed all 3 How to Train Your Dragon movies, is going to be taking a step into live action by doing what is arguably the most adapted movie, or doing an adaptation of the most adapted book in all of cinema, Treasure Island. Now, refresh me. Have you only seen Treasure Planet, or have you seen other versions of Treasure Island?
I have not seen anything of that.
Oh, I could have sworn you saw Treasure Planet.
No, I did not.
But, like, you're sort of familiar with the story, or would you like a quick little refresher?
No, not whatsoever. So you can completely skip me on this one.
All right, fair enough. No, and here for a little refresher for those who might not have seen a version of it in forever. So, it's the story of this kid named Jack Hawkins who comes across a treasure map from a guy, Billy Bones, who dies in his mom's hotel. Sorry, wrong word I'm looking for. There we go, because old timey England and whatnot. So he sets sail aboard the ship. He becomes friends with the ship's chef, Long John Silver. Long John Silver leads a mutiny, and everybody's after this one huge-ass treasure. Like, this movie has been done since the 20s. And it's been done and done again, with arguably the best versions being the 1950 version from the Walt Disney Company, and then also Muppet Treasure Island, which is just a damn blast. Case, I know you like Muppet movies. You really should watch that movie sometime.
I like the Muppet period, so yeah.
Exactly. So, and I'll say this because I like Dean DeBlois. I'm gonna give this a shot, but it has a lot to live up to if it's gonna even make any form of impression on me. It'd be kind of like if someone were to redo Peter Pan, because I've seen Hook, I've seen the P.J. Hogan version, I've seen the stage version with Mary Martin, I've seen the Disney version, I've seen Pan. That movie fucking sucked.
It's horrible.
Yes, it is. But that's the thing about when a classic film gets remade. I'm always willing to give it a fair shot if the storytellers can do something new with the story. So, please, Dean, don't screw this up because I love your trilogy. Thank you. As we'll head into our final story for the night. Jace, you like Guy Ritchie.
Yeah.
You like most of his film. And refresh me, you haven't seen all of his films, correct?
No, but wait. Give me a second to IMDb his movies. Guy Ritchie. I've seen a bunch of his. The thing is, I honestly don't remember where I know him from exactly. Like, what was the first movie I saw from him? I
Lock,
just
Stock, Two
know.
Smoking Barrels, Snatch.
No. I watched that later.
Okay, gotcha.
What's this? Okay, so I know him from Sherlock Holmes. That was the actually. Funnily enough, the first movie I saw of his was Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows back in 2011 in the cinema on a date. That was my first movie I watched of his. After that, I was like, oh, that was a great movie. I enjoyed it a lot. I want to see the first Sherlock Holmes, which was also a lot of fun. And then I was like, oh, interesting director. Let's see more of his. And I saw Snatch and Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. I don't remember anything of Lock, Stock. I liked Snatch. It was fun.
Brad Pitt's
The
fun in
Man
it.
from the Man from Uncle is a lot of fun. King Arthur, I think, is extremely underrated. I liked it a lot. Aladdin was garbage. I really didn't like it. There you go.
And I was fine on Aladdin. I thought it was just literally fine. I had nothing really nice to say about it, but nothing really mean to say about it. It was a movie I saw for free. I'm not going to complain.
Mr. Allison.
Yes.
I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah, I saw it. And then, Snatch I think is great. I do actually quite like Rock and Rolla. I quite like Lock, Stock, Two Smoking Barrels. And, of course, the two Sherlock Holmes films are a lot of fun. Man from U.N.C.L.E., same thing. No comment on King Arthur. But now we have the trailer for his new film, The Gentleman. And you know what? I dig it. I dig the trailer.
There's a trailer. Oops.
Oh, you missed the trailer, didn't you?
I forgot to watch it. I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's fine.
I didn't have a lot of time when I came home and until I needed to do Showdown Reaction and
You know,
live show. So
I don't blame you because it's kind of the same for me. But here, I'll just say this. You like Snatch?
I think
Essentially,
I think I just said
I
I
know, I
did.
know, I know. So here, and I'll reset you up for that. Remember Snatch?
I remember.
I remember. Uh, I'll it does come across as kind of a Snatch 2.0, and I'm okay with that because, yeah, I love Snatch, and this movie actually looks a lot of fun. I mean, and plus you have Matthew McConaughey as a gangster. Picture that.
Here's the thing about Guy Ritchie. I actually remember a few weeks ago when I watched Aladdin for the first time that I didn't get enough of Guy Ritchie's style in Aladdin because there was no style of Guy Ritchie in Aladdin, and that extremely disappointed me because that's what I love about Guy Ritchie movies. And the day later, I was like, I just want to watch Sherlock Holmes: A Game of Shadows because at least I'll get my Guy Ritchie style in that. And yeah, I fucking did. So please, Guy Ritchie, give me your style. That's what I love about your movies. And don't do fucking Aladdin.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Don't blame me on that one. But guys, we're going to take a quick 5-minute break. I promise it's a new one. And as soon as we get back, Case and I are going to do a little deep dive into the wonderful genre of horror. So, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. And don't forget, leave your own favorites either on Facebook or on Twitter or in the comments, and we'll make sure you all get some proper love and some shout outs. So until we get back, we'll see you in a bit.
I like the fact that Richard did bring up the fact of the match quality, but didn't quite do as much as what the question was kind of alluding to as to what you show a non-wrestling fan to get them into the wrestling. Whereas Nico, while he didn't do much of it, I think he did enough to kind of prove his point. So I'm going to have to agree with Cody, and I'm going to have to award this point to Nico. And the celebration.
Excuse me for one moment.
Is he going to jump into a pool?
I don't know. He's going to do something.
And wait.
He's got a belt. He's got a belt. I can't. I'm sorry. I had to do it.
Deftones to me has always been one of those bands who's had an album for every step of my life, and I love that they are just this old band, perfectly set from like my time span of being alive. In that, whenever I was listening to White Pony for the first time, all of that had very like everything is teenage angsty titles in their whole song. Like it's literally made for me at my teenage years and even like my younger years as I was listening to it. So then 2003 hits. That's when Deftones, the self-titled album, drops. That is me at 13. That is me with 3 Days Grace's first album, emo, cringy, hardcore teenager. And Deftones self-titled hits that perfectly with that tone. I was so angry, and it had so much raw scream. Hexagram is just 4 minutes of screaming straight. Just raw, visceral screaming and stuff like that. And a lot of the rest of it just had some nice, sad, melancholy notes that I think just lands perfectly for that teenage angst feeling I was at. So self-titled, for a very long explanation, is my number 3.
Have any of you lost a relative or a friend to cancer?
Raising hands. I don't know if we're supposed to be raising hands. I'm clicking right now, but I'll assume.
Yeah. Yes. Fair enough. And I myself actually have lost 2 grandparents. My grandmother on my mom's side to ovarian cancer back in 2011, and I lost my grandfather on my dad's side to prostate cancer in 2015. And I'll just say this, that freaking sucks. And it sucks when you feel so powerless that you don't even know how you're supposed to help, how you're supposed to cope. You don't know how you're supposed to, feel. Even when it's not you, even if it's just someone that you're close to, it's impossible just to wrap your head around that. And I totally forgot. I just found out that my uncle got diagnosed about a month ago with lung cancer, already in stage 4. So I guess I gotta say, Dylan, actually, thank you for inviting me on this chat to tell cancer, hey, fuck you.
Go fuck yourself.
You,
Mm-hmm.
you horrible fucking thing. Which actually, okay, you know what? Hold on. I know we're going long enough, but you know what? I don't care. Here, how about this? Name me a couple of people that you could honestly see as a manager next season. Then.
Okay. Josh McCouga. Look, as entertaining as the Wildberries are, they're not in the top 10, and that means that they're going to be split up next season because, they're just not good enough. But McCouga, I mean, the guy has energy for 10 people, and he could easily lead a team like with his silliness on camera, where the team can just focus on not being that silly because they got McCouga for that. Devon would be another one. I feel. Other than that, from the top of my head, I don't know. What do you have?
I'll actually I'll double down on your McCouga, but I'll also say if Roca either doesn't win the team match or doesn't win his next singles match,
right.
I think he finally hangs up the towel and becomes a manager, because he's not gonna leave. He's never gonna leave the Schmoedown.
No, he's not gonna leave the Schmoedown. But I do think I do agree that Roca is probably done with competing, but you can't have him leave the Schmoedown.
No.
So him as a manager, that would be gold.
And we are back. Yeah, sorry about that, guys. Got a little held up, shall we say. Maybe. But yes, so we are back. We're live. Now, as this is October, the month of Halloween, the month of scary stuff and ghouls and goblins and witches and warlocks and vampires and werewolves. It's kind of the season to be scared, So as we've been asking you guys all week, what are some of your favorite horror movies? What are the movies that involve things that go bump in the night that might do it for you? And we're gonna make sure that we have a nice, thorough conversation about the stuff that we actually do like in the genre, especially for someone who is still new, like Kees, who is discovering what he likes about horror. And because, Kees, as you've said, horror is not really your thing.
No.
But then as I've said time and time again, I super appreciate that you have been open to giving it a fair shot.
a couple of movies, yes. And that's mostly because I have figured out what I appreciate from horror movies. And the funny thing is, it's not really the horror element that I like. But I figured out there are actually just the horror movies that I can enjoy. Maybe not for the horrific element, because that's not something I would outright enjoy. And that is something that I have actively said I dislike about movies. If it does a certain horror trope, or if horror movies do that trope over and over, and I just get sick of it. But I have honestly figured out a couple of things in horror movies that I do like. And that's what we're here to talk about.
And funny enough, for as much as I talk up the genre, I'm kind of in the same boat. Because, look, I live in America, and I live in Trump's America. I lived through the 9/11 era of, George W. Bush, Dick Cheney, and whatnot.
Big yikes.
Exactly. I've seen the Iraq War. I've seen, all this shit going down over the course of my life. Do you think I'm actually scared by any of that? Or do you think I'm actually scared by anything you see in a horror movie? No. Of course not.
There's a lot more scary shit going on in the real world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I just look for great storytelling. I look for movies that make me believe I'm actually there. And that's why I love horror films so much. Especially the ones that stick with me. And, yeah, that's kind of what we're here to do. So, Kees, you mentioned that right now you have a top 8.
I do.
And because we do have a little bit of crossover, why don't you start the conversation? Just pick a couple of those films and let's talk about them.
All right. So last year, 2018, I was it October? Oh, it was throughout October and November. I actually managed to watch all the Friday the 13th movies simply because I was bored at work and I needed something to not really pay attention to that much. Because honestly, I already thought, this is probably gonna suck, but whatever. And after seeing all of them, I can honestly say there is not a single good movie in this franchise. There isn't. On the other hand,
Nope.
I can also say I see the appeal, and I definitely see the appeal for when they came out back in the 80s, because this franchise had a movie release in every year of the 80s except for 2 years. That is insane. And that is because it had an extremely simple formula that, people like to watch. The formula was, with the exception of the first movie, of course, Jason goes on a killing spree to kill camp counselors. And at the end, the camp counselors find a way to kind of defeat him. But Jason always lives through it. And at one point, it just becomes so fascinating to see how they bring back Jason, and at one point you're like, you know what? I don't even give 2 fucks anymore what happens in this movie. I just want to see Jason kill some fools. That's the only thing you want to see, because after seeing all these movies, I can definitely say Jason Voorhees is one of the most iconic horror icons in cinema, and there's no way you can deny that. But one that I did like, I'm not going to say it's good, but I liked it, was Part 6. I enjoyed that movie, mostly because it had Jason at his most Jason. It has some of the best kills, and that's about it. It was entertaining.
And for me, it's also probably the funniest entry in the series.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
Because
and the funny thing is, this year I actually rewatched Friday the 13th a month ago on Friday the 13th, when it was Friday the 13th. And I respect that movie a little bit more because of what it did. Not necessarily because I think the movie is that good. It isn't. And there's a reason that it is not fresh on Rotten Tomatoes, or sort of fresh at least. I think it's like 60%.
61, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I know why that, but I respect the movie more than I like it. And I recognize, okay, this definitely started something, and there's a reason that there are, I believe 11 or 12 movies in this fucking franchise. Nuts.
Including Freddy vs. Jason 12.
Yeah. Well, there you go. And do you include the remake?
Yeah, that's what the remake. Yep.
Okay.
Because it goes 1 through Jason X, Freddy vs. Jason remake.
Oh, yeah. And I also want to touch upon Jason X for a second. That movie's horrible, but it's gloriously horrible.
Great.
That would be a drunk watch, a guilty pleasure, however you would want to call it. It is horrible, but it's gloriously horrible.
Oh my god, it's like, especially the scene where they have to recreate Crystal Lake for Jason to kill 2 simulations.
And he just wraps them in a fucking sleeping bag and bunches them, or he just fuck.
Or no, he hits one with the other one, and they're both in the sleeping bag.
Oh yeah, that's it. Yeah,
it's so
one
beautiful.
Yeah. Oh my god. That's the thing. This franchise is not good, but it has some moments that. It's glorious.
Yep, and that's why it's the same thing with the Halloween franchise. It's the same thing with Nightmare on Elm Street. We'll get there in a moment. So I'll just give a quick shout out to the Halloween franchise, because essentially it's kind of the same reason I love that franchise. Yes, in my opinion, the only good Halloween films are the first one and the one that came out last year. Actually, and H2O.
Yeah.
I'll give some love to H2O. But
and I didn't even like the original one.
And that's fair. But I love that franchise because, again, the kills are so stupid and they're so great. And the storyline, it goes all over the fucking place. It gets to a point where where Michael is under the control of fucking runes that are cast by wizards and shit. But it works so stupidly beautiful.
That's it though.
Yes, because you don't take it seriously. You just you drink and you have popcorn and you're just like, let's party. But yeah, no. So that's kind of just my thoughts and feelings on both those franchises. Yes, I love them both, and like I said, we'll get to the other one in a little bit here. I'll give a quick little shout out actually to a slasher film that I actually don't think gets enough appreciation. And while I can't actually say it's good per se, I do think it actually is stupidly entertaining. And that is Silent Night, Deadly Night. And yes, it is exactly what you think it is. A guy running around as Santa Claus, killing people. And yes, it's so bad. But it's so good. And of course, it's filled with all the boobage you'd want. It's filled with all the great gore that you'd want. It's a hoot. It's just a straight hoot.
Hoot.
Yeah.
Why do you say it's so Canadian?
Because, okay, unfortunately, I kind of had that word ruined for me. I can't say hoot. I gotta say hoot. But yeah.
This is the show that Chris turns Canadian. Okay.
Eh?
Eh?
Apologies to all of our Canadian fans, but oh yes, and Kees, I don't know if you're familiar with the GIF of Garbage Day.
No.
Okay, that's from the sequel to Silent Night, Deadly Night, where the brother of the killer from the first movie winds up going on a little killing spree of his own. He gets a gun, shoots his girlfriend, shoots a cop, and then literally he just walks around, he's shooting people. And there's one guy, he's just putting his garbage down in front of his driveway, and then literally the guy's just like, "Garbage day!" He shoots a guy for no reason, and the music is so serious, but the way it's shot is so terrible. You're just like, yes, I love it. Yeah, I don't blame you. Come on, get on up. All right, but no, that's my little love to a not so great film that's also great. And actually, refresh me, Case. There was a movie. Well, hold on. Is Terminator 1 still your favorite horror film?
No, because Terminator is not a horror film. Everyone has said that it's not a horror film. Unfortunately, because the first Terminator actually follows a whole lot of the slasher trope.
It does.
And that's why I'm like, you can honestly make an argument that the first Terminator is a horror film. Because the Terminator kills people, goes after this one girl who gets protected, and like it honestly does play out like a horror. Actually,
yeah, you know what? No. It's a horror film. It's a fucking horror film.
It is a full-on slasher because people have sex and those people get killed. Like, seriously, it is a horror film. There, in every sense of how a slasher is made, Terminator 1 is a horror film. Okay, well, yeah, then it should probably be my favorite. Okay.
Exactly. Like, okay. Guys, in the chat, if any of you are the people who told Case that Terminator is not a horror film, please just explain yourself. I'm not going to yell at you, but I would like to hear your arguments of how it could not be classified as a horror film. Because I'm sorry, I can classify it as a horror film.
Like, if you go off of what a slasher is, in a slasher film, we get the setup of usually a girl who is actually not the most horny person around because her friend is usually the horny person who has sex with someone.
Mm-hmm.
So that girl does something else than go out and have sex with a guy on one night. In the meantime, the killer is killing people because those people are an obstacle to him for some reason. Then he gets to the friend because usually the killer thinks that the friend is the one he needs to kill, and sometimes it is. Other times he's looking for the other girl, but he kills the friend who is having sex at that point. And then he goes after the girl, and the girl either gets protection from someone or something, but there's something that protects her because, she's the main girl and she needs to survive. And at the end, the main girl is the cause of the killer's death.
Yeah.
In all of that, Terminator is a slasher. So yeah, the Terminator, you can 100% argue, is a horror movie.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I mean, shit. Die Hard is a Christmas movie. Terminator is a horror movie.
Yes.
I mean, Robert Adams, don't think I don't see you in the chat, brother. I see you in there. And if you're going to try to tell me that Die Hard is not a Christmas movie, we're going to have problems. And I'll have to get myself on the Schmodown so I can show you what's up. But
and the thing is, I remember watching the Terminator when I was way too young to watch that movie because the Terminator is an R-rated movie, and I think I was like 12, maybe a little younger than that. And I remember being scared. The thing, unfortunately, the effects in the Terminator don't hold up that well. But I do remember, I vividly remember the moment that they made the truck crash with all the flames, and Sarah and Carl think they're done, and then he stands up out of the flames. and he starts walking towards them, and they run, and they get into this factory. And I was just on the edge of my seat, like, oh my god, that was so tense, and I was terrified of this Terminator coming after them. I mean, isn't that what a horror movie is supposed to do? Terrify you, make you scared? Not always, but this was an instance where I was scared. I was terrified, also because I was too young to see the fucking movie.
Well, yeah, it's just like how I was too young to watch A Clockwork Orange at age 10.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dear. Oh, dude. Oh, God. No, but yeah, like, okay, in that case, I would say that The Terminator is my favorite movie. If you would classify it as a horror movie, it's not my favorite straight horror movie because you have to make a fucking argument for it.
Right.
That's another one.
Fair enough.
Anyway, I do want to bring up a movie that I saw recently because I needed to watch all the Tarantino movies. And actually, this isn't a Tarantino movie, but it is part of the two-parter Grindhouse. And that's Planet Terror, directed by Robert Rodriguez. This movie knows exactly what it is. And that is what is good about it. Because, if you have, the thing is, in the poster, you see a girl with a machine gun as a leg. The moment that you see that, it's like, yeah, this movie knows exactly what it is. It is so ridiculous that it is entertaining as all hell. I had a lot of fun watching Planet Terror.
And I would certainly say it has horror elements to it.
Yeah, it is a horror movie, period. So, yeah, no, Planet Terror, very fun movie. A lot of good practical effects, actually. Oh, yes. Good makeup.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
All right. I suppose I'll carry the conversation for a moment, and I'll take us to one of the movies that's on the thumbnail. Which one? Oh, I know where to go. With this. So you mentioned great practical effects will always sucker you in. Yes?
I know where you're going with this.
Actually, you don't. I'm gonna let you bring that one up.
Okay.
But I'm gonna go with the one that the first time I saw it, I was thoroughly impressed that this was from the guy who directed Spider-Man. And this is 1981's The Evil Dead. Now, while Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn is arguably a better movie, and Army of Darkness is just the fucking best, I have to give the credit to the first one just because I think that's the only one of the trilogy that I'll argue is straight horror. Because Evil Dead 2, as great as the effects in that movie are, and as great as the gore is, and great as, all the creepy atmosphere is, I'll say this. It's too funny. It's too funny to be a straight horror film. It's a horror comedy. And I love that. But Evil Dead 1 gets it just right for my taste. And I think the reason that I'm so just head over heels for that movie, two things. One, Bruce motherfucking Campbell. He can do no wrong in my eyes. Not even call a Schmoedown match wrong, even though he totally gave away answers.
The thing was, I actually hated that match.
Fair enough. And two is every time that Sam Raimi takes control of the camera, the way he uses it to sort of show everything that's going on, it's perfect. The visual effects look perfect. The makeup, yes, it's done for like $5, but that $5 is used perfectly. The gore, again, the movie was made on a shoestring budget, but my God, did Sam Raimi get every possible cent he could out of The Evil Dead. And it, gave us it put him on the map so that he can make more great films. And it put Bruce Campbell on the map. Yeah. So, Evil Dead.
And it put Bruce Campbell on the map to make him cameo in Spider-Man.
Yes, he did.
In all of them.
In all of them, yeah. Also, side tangent. Do you believe the theory that he's playing the same character in all 3 films?
No.
Okay, I don't either. So yeah, Evil Dead. It's great.
So I'm next.
Yeah, and please take us, if you could, to another great practical effects-driven film that came out just 1 year later.
Okay, I'll go to that one first then. A movie I actually saw very recently, but my God, what is this movie well made? The Thing. A movie that Christian Harloff has not watched to this day. And I never, actually, like a few years ago when it became a thing, that Christian Harloff hadn't seen The Thing ever. And it was like a big blind spot of him. And everyone was like,
you were on his
saying,
you were on his side, weren't you?
Well,
kind of ish.
Kind of. It's like everyone keeps saying you should see The Thing, and The Thing. Sorry. The thing about, if you haven't seen a movie, you don't know what you're missing. Therefore, you couldn't care less about it if you haven't seen it. So if you haven't seen a movie like The Thing, and especially like in my case, if I haven't seen a horror movie that if I haven't seen a horror movie that everyone tells me you should see this, then I'm like, oh yeah, I should see that, and I will instantly forget about it because I don't give 2 shits about you or the fact that I need to see a horror movie, regardless who you are, regardless of the horror movie, because I don't know what I'm missing. And that's kind of how I felt for The Thing for a few years, and I was like, guys, I know what Christian is coming from. He doesn't know what he's missing, so no one can convince him that he should see it up until he actually sees it. And well, okay, of course, at one point you have to give into like a group pressure, which he will, because he actually announced that he's going to do a watch along of it. But I still can't believe that I watched it earlier than him. And I watched it because I put it in the poll. But my God, what is this movie good? I didn't expect it to be this good. I honestly didn't. And The Thing and Alien and other movies like that made me realize what I do like about certain horror movies. My biggest issue with horror movies in general, first of all, I thought they were supposed to be scary, and they never scared me because I'm not easily scared, and they just bored me. Then I also started becoming annoyed by character decisions because a whole lot of horror movies have this trope of one character makes a decision which is so fucking stupid, but the only reason that they make that decision is to kick the plot in motion. And it aggravates me beyond belief. What I do like about horror movies, like The Thing, they introduce something that is incredibly difficult to fight against, that the people don't really know how to handle. Like an Alien, like A Thing, like A Nightmare on Elm Street with Freddy Krueger. How do you fight something that you don't know, that you are only starting to figure out what to do with? And at the beginning of The Thing is inside a dog, and that dog is being chased by Norwegians who already dealt with it, and they're like, we need to kill this bastard. And then they come to the American base, and the Americans are like, what are you doing? And the Norwegians are talking Norwegian because they can't talk English, and the Americans can't talk Norwegian, so they shoot the Norwegians. So their only source of information is then at that point dead. And they have no idea why they were attacking this dog. They have no idea what this dog even is. So they have no idea what they're dealing with. And that's why it's so smart. And that's why I really liked it. And then the first scene where the dog is transforming into the thing. Oh my God, the practical effects are so good. I cannot even. And throughout the movie, there are so many great practical effects on the thing, on the creature, how it grows. And I'm like, you don't see that in any other movie, really. Unfortunately, you will never see it today anymore because CGI is a thing. And it's actually very refreshing. Like, it's funny that 1982 was officially the last year that CGI wasn't a thing. Because in 1982, The Wrath of Khan came out, and that was the first movie to use CGI. So after that, CGI started becoming a thing at the late 80s, beginning of the 90s. It became a huge thing, and then you get early 2000 CG. But yeah, it's used in everything now. But the fact that this movie used practical effects so much and so greatly, I was thoroughly impressed. And that movie holds up. It 100% holds up.
And I know I've said this a few times, but I could not be more proud of you for finally watching the goddamn thing. Because
now, only if you could say that to Christian Harloff.
I know, right? It's like, Christian, could you just be a friend and just watch the goddamn thing already, please? Because, yeah. I literally have nothing new to bring to the conversation. It's one of my favorite horror films of all time. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. Because John Carpenter, yeah, big shock, is one of my favorite filmmakers of all time. Because he knew whenever he makes a movie, he's got to do it sincerely, and he's got to do it in a way that when he tricks your eye, he can prove how he did it. And it wasn't just with a cheap trick of CG. It's why I love Halloween so much. It's why I love, this movie. It's why I love In the Mouth of Madness. Like, he usually didn't resort to sort of the traps and pitfalls that a lot of filmmakers would fall into as their careers would go on.
That's true. Like, I've seen a couple of John Carpenter movies now. I'm not the biggest fan of him because, as I said, I'm not a big fan of Halloween. I thought Big Trouble in Little China was fun, but it has issues. I enjoyed Escape from New York. The Thing is probably my favorite movie of his. But one thing that all these movies have in common is that he does take chances, he does take risks, and he does push filmmaking, and that is one thing not a lot of directors are able to do.
In a way, he's kind of like George Lucas in that sense. He didn't make something unless he knew he could push filmmaking by doing it.
The only thing is that John Carpenter actually knows how to direct actor.
Yeah, that's true.
That's a big difference.
That's a very big difference.
And how to write dialogue.
Yes, very much so. And hell, John Carpenter's awesome enough. He knows how to write his own damn music.
Yeah, that's crazy. Every time I watch a movie of his, score composed by John Carpenter, I'm like, Lucas needed Williams for that. To be fair, he probably hired the best in the business for that. But
yeah. And in a way, Carpenter is very inspiring for that in that sense because, like, here, let's say I made a movie. Let's say I wrote and directed my own movie. Would I do my own score for it? Yeah. Yes, I would, because I'm a songwriter myself. So, and that's the kind of challenge. That's the kind of Carpenter level challenge that I would love to take on someday. But that's not the main reason why I love him.
But by the way, I just remembered when we started Big Trouble in Little China and saw the opening credits, we were like, John Carpenter is more Tommy Wiseau than Tommy Wiseau. Because
except, he has talent.
Because Tommy Wiseau wrote, directed, starred in, and produced the movie. And John Carpenter wrote, directed, composed the music, produced, and did one thing more for Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah. But yeah, no, and like I said, there's nothing else to say about the thing. Like, obviously for me, the scene that will forever play in my head is the scene where the one character is being put on the table. They're about to defibrillate him, and as right as they go,
and the hands go in.
Yeah, and as soon as he gets clear, boom, ah! And he's got no arms. Because
yeah, I remember. That's the thing. Often when I watch these type of movies, I just want to watch Irina for her reaction. I remember her reaction, and she was like, such a big awe face, and I was pretty much saying like, "Oh my god, that was awesome."
Yeah, no, and that's the genius of Carpenter. Sheer genius. So, how funny then that I think we should transfer the conversation from John Carpenter to who I'll argue is the other great contemporary of his, a guy who might go by the name of Wes Craven.
Yes.
Now, before I set you up for the one that we'll talk about collectively, I have to give a shout out. Excuse me.
Of course.
I have to give a shout out to Scream, the movie that completely redefined horror films in the 90s. Because, let's rewind the clock. It's 1996, and Michael's out of gas, Jason's out of gas, Freddy has been out of gas for years. Well, until 1994, when a little film called New Nightmare came out, but
that didn't spawn any other movies.
Exactly. That was the end, supposedly. So what do you do besides make a movie that pokes all the holes in the slasher genre, but also redefines what made those films great in the first place? And only Wes Craven could pull that off. With his brilliant writing, his incomparable direction, and of course a great performance from Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott. Yeah. And the fact that the twist in Scream, it's so brilliant. Because nobody did that before. Nobody had thought of that. But it just made too much goddamn sense.
All right, you're not spoiling this for me.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah,
I do have the intent to watch it one day.
No. That's what I said. But the reason the twist works so well is because nobody sees it coming, and nobody thought it could happen until we saw this movie. So it's so good, and the acting, superb. Especially with the early role from Rosario Dawson, who, we mentioned her in Planet Terror. She was awesome. Or not Rosario Dawson, sorry. Brain, work with me here. Jesus Christ, what is her?
You're looking for Planet Terror?
Yep.
Rose McGowan?
Rose McGowan, there we go.
There you go.
Rose McGowan. Jesus. Yes, no, this was the movie that put her on the map as well.
All right.
So, you're in for a fun one, Case. But in the meantime, let's talk about the man of our dreams, as it were.
as it were. Yeah, so, last year I decided to watch all of the first movies of these long-running franchises with extremely big horror icons. We already talked about Friday the 13th, Halloween, and A Nightmare on Elm Street. of course, because Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, three of the biggest horror icons, period. And I already said, I don't much care for Halloween. I don't much care for Friday the 13th. But A Nightmare on Elm Street, yes. Yes. Finally. Mostly because of the fantasy genre, I feel, because, yeah, I'm a big fantasy nut. Like most fantasy movies, I will like or appreciate the idea at least. Because I love fantasy. I love that's what I like in movies. I don't like I'm not the biggest fan of realistic movies. I mean, sometimes I am, but or movies that are really realistic, set in whatever. I do
The
like
Florida Project kind of movies.
yeah, but I like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. Like it could never happen in the real world, but that's why it's nice because they created this world that could never exist, but it's awesome anyway. And with A Nightmare on Elm Street, I feel that they really truly did something like that because yeah, it could never happen that someone comes in your dreams and kills you and you die the same way in real life. But that's why it's cool. And it's even cooler when the deaths. Oh, the deaths are so awesome. Seriously, the girl getting dragged around the ceiling, and I now know, thanks to you actually, how they did that effect of her getting dragged around the ceiling. That was awesome, and that was practical. Yay! Also, yeah, when Johnny Depp's character dies, the blood coming out of the bed, it's like, dude, wow. Of course, Freddy Krueger might actually be the biggest, the best horror icon in history, despite all the shitty sequels that came after it, which we shouldn't really talk about. But
I mean, I'll talk about him, but by all means.
Yeah, but Freddy Krueger is just a great horror icon. I thought Nancy was a decent character, but she was probably better in the Dream Warriors. And I'll actually give a shout out to the Dream Warriors. That's the only good sequel that they did out of the original 6. New Nightmare is something else because that's not Nancy. That's Heather Langenkamp playing. New Nightmare.
So good.
It's difficult to explain for anyone who hasn't seen it, but if you have seen New Nightmare, they just take the real life people, the actors, but they actually do a nightmare. Yeah, New Nightmare. They do a nightmare twist to it, and it's literally Wes Craven's New Nightmare. And I've only seen the first half of the movie. We tried to watch it last Saturday. I was extremely tired. That's why I couldn't finish it. I do want to finish it this weekend because I do remember that first hour was pretty damn good, actually. And I'm very interested to see where it goes towards the end.
Oh, you're in for a ride.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. But A Nightmare on Elm Street is one of my favorite horror movies. One of the probably best horror movies ever made, and that's because of Wes Craven and how he made such a horror icon with just one movie in Freddy Krueger.
Yeah. Now, naturally, of course, I had to set you up for that because we had to get I'd argue the two big icons of modern day horror out of the way, John Carpenter and Wes Craven. Now, I'm gonna hop in a time machine for just a moment here.
Actually, modern day would be James Wan.
Fair enough. You're right, and we'll get to him in a moment.
Definitely.
But now we're gonna hop in a time machine, and I'm gonna take us back, way back, to a Schmoedown question that you actually got correct today. Well done. We're going to go back to a director by the name of James Whale. In 1931, he directed a little movie that became the first huge movie franchise in cinema history. And it was based off the very popular book by Mary Shelley. I'm, of course, talking about Frankenstein. This movie's perfect. Fight me. Fight me on that. The acting is superb. The score is the perfect amount of creepy. The atmosphere is incredible. The cinematography, despite being in black and white, couldn't feel more vibrant. It couldn't feel more colorful. And it gave us the birth of Boris Karloff as the Frankenstein's monster. A role that I'll argue defined the genre for the better part of, well, I'd argue up until Michael Myers came to the screen. You know, because it's not just him. That same year, we also got Bela Lugosi as Dracula in Dracula, and holy fucking shit. Another great freaking movie that has stood the test of time. Both these movies are coming up on their 100-year anniversaries. And do you want to know what the crazy thing is? They still hold up.
I'll be the judge of that if I watch them.
Yes, if you ever are able to get around to them.
Because people claiming that The Princess Bride holds up, it does not.
I never said it was a perfect movie. I just said it's a perfect time capsule. And I love it for that.
No, but people say, oh no, The Princess Bride is still great. It still holds up. Fuck you.
God, where would you be without the little cheap shots? I love it. But, you know, also, Ryan, let him be the judge of the Nightmare remake. I don't love it, but I understand what they were going for. Anyway, back to real quick, you know, the whole original Universal Monster movies. Without those, I'll make the argument right now. Without those movies laying the template for what horror films could be, we don't get the Carpenters. We don't get our Cravens. We don't get our James Wans. We don't get all of these people who throughout from the 50s onward who would bring about the new voices of horror films. Whether it was some of the stuff in the 50s like They Live or Them. They Live is John Carpenter in 1988. Never mind. Which, again, another great movie. You know, and it's also how we got the first Godzilla movie and why that led to the Kaiju era. Which, granted, sure, were all those movies great? No, but were they important? Yes.
Actually, it might have led to Jaws.
Exactly. And that movie completely opened the door for the blockbuster era as we know it. So in a way, modern cinema kind of owes the horror genre from the 30s. So, and I don't know, maybe it's just because like I have such an appreciation for that kind of history that I can't help but love those movies.
You do.
But I think what is also, I discovered them at the perfect time. I was about 17 years old, just really starting to get into movies. You know, outside of, you know, Star Wars and bad Sci-Fi Channel, you know, shark movies and whatnot. Hashtag no shame.
Okay.
You know, and I'm so glad that I was led to those films. Because, well, they kind of kickstarted my interest. And frankly speaking, I don't know what I would be doing right now if I hadn't got interested in older films and wanted to keep exploring cinema. I certainly wouldn't be doing this. I certainly wouldn't have met you. And I wouldn't have met all you wonderful people, so...
Yeah.
But that said, let's jump back in the time machine and let's talk about arguably the master of modern-day horror. Starting with a little film from 2004.
Also, I do want to say, Brian Fernandez, and Jimmy Derry, you guys will love me for this. I absolutely love the Saw franchise. Created by, of course, James Wan, who did the first. He didn't do any of the sequels.
That was all Darren Lynn Bousman.
This not all.
Sorry, not Jigsaw. He didn't do that one, but he did pretty much all the other ones.
He did a lot of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, Saw, the Jigsaw Killer. There is a reason that William Bibiani uses this theme to come out too. It's so iconic, like that theme alone. It is still an atrocity that all the Saw movies are rated rotten on Rotten Tomatoes. Like there's no fucking way that even critics have to appreciate the first one at least for what it did, for what it showed us. And what I love about the Saw movies is, again, the concept, creativity, the game. I want to play a game. Everyone knows that. Everyone in the entire fucking world knows I want to play a game. The fact that you're in a trap and you need to get out by sacrificing a part of yourself. Most of the time it's physical. Sometimes it's actually mental. Especially if, like in Saw 3, the traps are all people that the person has encountered, and he needs to forgive them and he needs to help them. That's not just Saw 3, but there are several movies in the Saw franchise where a person is going through traps where he needs to save someone in the trap, and if he doesn't, that person dies. But he doesn't, so it's mental. But that's why sometimes, I mean, I don't know, Brian. I'm not the best with Saw trivia. I just know that I like these movies, and I've seen all of them several times, with the exception of Jigsaw, which I thought was garbage. And actually, I'm not a fan of 3D either. Like 3D is not good, and Jigsaw is horrible, and I like all the other ones, but like the original 3 Saw movies, I would consider good movies. I think the third one is my favorite. And yeah, but you have to respect the first one, of course, and the second one is also pretty damn good. But yeah, I love it. I love the concept where, someone, because of their sins, because of the fact that they're just a bad person, gets tracked down by this guy who is, involved with a lot of people and has a vendetta. And that's only the first 3 movies, because then in the 4th movie, you find out it's actually Hoffman going after them. That's why Hoffman makes the mistake at the beginning of 5 to make an unwinnable trap where he gets found out in the next movie that it was Hoffman, which eventually gets him killed. But yeah, like then Hoffman becomes the one. Then actually Carrie Elwes comes back for the seventh one. As I said, I'm not a fan of 3D. I think it's a bad movie, but I do like the fact that they brought back Carrie Elwes. I'm
sure to get him, they showed up at his doorstep with a paycheck, and then he said, "As you wish."
As you wish. Yeah. And let's just not talk about this. Fuck that movie.
Yeah, of course. Like, the Saw franchise brought us, well, frankly speaking, arguably the most relatable killer.
Yeah.
And the thing with Jigsaw,
he goes after actual bad people.
Yeah. Which is how I know for a fact, if Jigsaw were a real thing, I would just go missing one day and never come back.
Yeah, and the only thing we would see from you is how you died in a trap.
Yep. I'd be very dead. Oh well. As long as hopefully I could lay between now and then. But yeah, no. So, yeah. the first one did something so brave, so crazy that it just had to work. And of course, when they did the supposedly rushed sequel, instead, oh shit, we're actually gonna explore this world now. Now we're gonna have some fun. And the same thing with the third one, which is why that first trilogy.
And that's the thing. That's why you could call the first 3 Saw movies you could truly call a trilogy, because those fix on Jigsaw, John Kramer, played by Tobin Bell. Yep. So yeah, like those 3 movies focus on him and show him, and because it's only at the end of the first movie that you figure out it's him. Twist. And then the second movie explores him as a character. In the third one, it explores him more and he dies. So it's like a perfect trilogy in that regard. It's kind of like Darth Vader. The original trilogy and Darth Vader.
Pretty much. Like, and I wouldn't change a damn thing about them.
Nope.
Not a damn thing. Which...
Why are these movies rotten? It frustrates the fuck out of me.
Yep. Yep. Luckily, I don't have that much to worry about, because I'm going to bring up 2 more films, and, I'm trying to remember, shit. Have we covered... I know there's one film we're still missing from the thumbnail, so just give me 2 seconds to pull up that thumbnail real fast.
No. We've only missed one, and that's your favorite.
And I'm saving that for last. But there is actually one that I want to give a quick little shout out to. That's and I'm glad I just heard a podcast about it, because I was just reminded of why I actually love both the original and the remake of Fright Night. So, Tom Holland, back in 1985... Oh, sorry, the other one, not the Spidey one.
Yeah, because back in 1985, he wasn't even born.
Exactly. But no, so back in 1985, writer-director Tom Hooper came up with this brilliant idea.
Tom Hooper?
Oh, sorry. God damn it.
Tom Hooper directed The King's Speech.
Tom Holland. Jesus Christ. I'm out of it.
English, motherfucker. Do you speak it?
Nope. Nope. Have you met me?
I have.
But no, so Tom Holland comes up with this great idea of, what if a vampire moved in next door to you? How would you react? What would you do? Would you try to kill him? Would you seek out someone else to kill him? What would you do to stop this vampire who is clearly trying to hurt people in your neighborhood? Well, we get that answer. And, and again, 1985, I love this version for 2 reasons. One, Chris Sarandon as Jerry Dandridge. Oh, that beautiful, sexy motherfucker. Like, there, and just like with Nightmare on Elm Street 2, there is definitely some gay subtext in this movie, and I did not mind one bit, because, that man. And his thing, I am so straight, but I'll tell you this. That man is sexy. Woo! Same with Colin Farrell in the remake. They're both just oozing with sex drive. And of course, the other reason is the character Peter Vincent, who is, in the original, this kind of late-night horror host who, introduces an old horror movie to our hapless protagonist, and then he talks about the movie. And played brilliantly by Roddy McDowall from the Planet of the Apes franchise. And then in the remake, played so beautifully by David Tennant, a.k.a. Barty Crouch Jr.
No. He's Doctor Who. No one remembers him as Barty Crouch Jr. because he had no screen time as Barty Crouch Jr.
Which is such a goddamn shame.
It's a crime.
It's such a crime. But yeah, no. Again, I was just going without the example that I know you have seen. So,
I know he's Doctor Who.
Yes. And my God, both of them, again, Ryan McDowell and David Tennant, they both bring such different but such unique perspectives to the character Peter Vincent. And plus, in the remake, you've got McLellan in this movie. You've got Imogen Poots in this movie. You've got Anton freaking Yelchin. The guy never gave a bad performance, and we lost him way too goddamn soon.
Huh? Are you still talking about Fright Night?
Yeah. All right,
Aren't you talking about Green Room?
Which, my God, that's also a great movie.
It's the same cast.
Some of them, there's no Patrick Stewart, sadly, but still a great movie. And actually, I think you would dig the remake of Fright Night, especially for Anton Yelchin.
Oh, I didn't like Green Room.
Well, that's a very different kind of movie.
Very different.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but anyway,
I do want to give a quick shout out to two recent horror movies that I liked. Those are Don't Breathe and A Quiet Place. I saw Don't Breathe in the theater, and Stephen Lang as the blind man is phenomenal. The sound design is fucking phenomenal. And yeah, this movie is tense throughout. And I actually remember this was one of the few movies that a jump scare got me. That doesn't happen that often. So good job on it. Even though the fact that the main characters, the kids, were not good. I wasn't a fan of that kids. That's why it's weird that I like this movie, because I'm usually not a fan of horror movies that have shitty main characters, but this was one of them. And
if
it
they're
was
done
mostly
right,
would have been better. But still, I thought it was a good movie. And yeah, A Quiet Place. Actually, a little bit the same thing. Like, don't make a fucking sound. And yeah, it's going to be very fucking difficult not to make a sound. But yeah, with a Quiet Place, again, a very smart, interesting concept. And the main characters are not stupid, except for the kid who gets killed off in the opening scene and is like, okay, that was an opening scene. I'm in the movie. Now let's see the rest of this. And for an hour and a half, you're just into it because of that opening scene. And that was something that I was extremely impressed by. Opening scene, kid dies. Okay, you're into it. Let's watch the rest of this. And yeah, the main characters are actually smart. Their daughter, despite being deaf, is smart, and actually makes sure that she finds a way to kill the aliens at the end. And then Emily Blunt is gonna go full on Edge of Tomorrow on all the aliens. Yeah, I remember for an hour and a half, I was locked into this movie. It was great.
It was one of my favorite movies of last year.
Yes,
I'm so bummed it didn't get more Oscar noms, because it absolutely fucking deserved them.
In the category of snubs,
this is your winner.
Yeah.
Well, okay, to be fair, this and Hereditary, which are both
I haven't seen Hereditary.
so great. Oh.
Probably.
Unfortunately, because I know you have a little. I know sometimes you're not really patient with slow burns. Hereditary might drive you up the wall, unfortunately. That's what I'm worried about with that one. But I adored that movie. But of course, you heard me talk about it last month a little bit. To close out on my end of my favorite horror movie of all time, which I don't say that lightly. Out of a genre of which I've seen probably somewhere between 200 or 300 movies, to say that this is my favorite, that says a goddamn lot. And I stand by it that The Descent is my favorite horror movie of all time. I want a horror movie with great practical effects. Dear Jesus, there is a pool of blood in this movie, and it looks 100% convincing. I want a concept that actually terrifies me. Being stuck in a cave while spelunking is terrifying.
I should probably not listen to you.
Yep. Being stuck in a cave while you're spelunking is fucking terrifying. And then finding out you're not alone down there is even worse. Then on top of that, you have characters that you actually care about all the way through. You want to see their interpersonal drama and how they're going to survive down there. You want to see how everything's going to affect them moving forward. But you're most scared because you know for a fact, because this is a horror movie, not everyone's going to make it out. And the best part is, in my opinion, there's not a single bad kill in this movie. All the kills are fresh. They're awesome. They're so action-packed. And the best part is, this movie is actually not just a horror film. In my opinion, it's one of the great adventure films of the 2000s. Especially once we are introduced to the crawlers. Especially as we get introduced to all of the pieces that are now in play. And how anybody can die. In fact, depending on which cut of the film you go by, everybody does. But there's a little bit of wiggle room between which cut you watch. And of course, it's Neil Marshall's best film. That goes without saying. So, with that, I don't really know what else necessarily to talk about. I mean, we kind of talked about all of our favorites. We've talked about the stuff that impressed us. Here, you know what? Before we head out, Kees, let me just ask you this. What do you hope to come across next on your horror journey, shall we say?
Good question. I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, well, the thing is, the horror movies I like are mostly because of like smart concepts. I don't know, straight fantasy. The Thing, Alien. Actually, we didn't mention Alien. That's kind of the thing. I love the concept of Alien. I'm not the biggest fan of the original Alien, but the concept is great, and that continues. Great franchise. But like Alien and The Thing are that was one thing I was thinking of while watching The Thing. The Thing definitely got their concept of Alien because it's a very similar thing, but they changed it up enough to make it their own thing.
Actually, the other way around. Because The Thing is a remake of a 1955 movie called The Thing from Another World, which...
Oh.
Yeah,
okay.
So Scott borrowed a lot from that one.
Well, you know...
Still, both great.
They say that copying is the biggest form of flattery.
Yes.
So yeah. But like that's a really smart sci-fi like concept. A Nightmare is more the fantasy, and Saw in a way also fantasy. So yeah, like that's what I love. Sci-fi and fantasy. It's kind of my genre, and that's why I have liked those type of movies. Also, Terminator, sci-fi. Quiet Place, sci-fi. Planet Terror, fantasy.
With some sci-fi and action in there.
Yeah. So it's essentially that. I'm just looking forward to more smart concepts where the characters aren't dumb and make dumb decisions for the sake of pushing the plot forward. That's essentially what I'm looking forward to.
All right.
That's really okay.
Well, and of course, being a student of the game, I'm always looking for new things to watch. I'm always looking for new directors to discover. I'm looking for new ideas that haven't been presented to me before. And Brian Fernandez, I'm actually glad you brought this up. That third film you mentioned, The Flesh and the Fiends, starring Peter Cushing, I haven't seen it. But you know what I'm going to do? When I have the time, I'm going to look it up. Because I love Peter Cushing. Because, hello, who doesn't? He's great in pretty much everything. Of course. You know, and yeah, I loved him in 1958's Dracula. I mean, him and Christopher Lee just fucking own that movie. Whew. So, I very much look forward to always getting recommendations. And to be honest, seriously, I'm gonna look that movie up, and I'm gonna see if it works for me the same way it works for you. And to everybody in the chat, thank you guys for participating in the chat as always. Thank you for helping build the China Sticks army. Before we went live, Case and I were just having a quick conversation about like how blessed we are to have you guys, and why for sure with us going after movies as much as we have been, C2A don't stand a chance come January. Neither in trivia nor for that award. So, until I know. I had to do one thing for Nico in regards to that because you guys know I'm not a fan of that stupid thing he's building, but whatever. I'll play along this one time in his absence. So until next week, guys, thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the Who Cares Anyway podcast. Please click the like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, click the notifications bell, leave a comment if you're catching this on the replay. If you're on the audio feed listening to this, make sure you guys leave a rating and a review on iTunes or whatever your platform for streaming is. And Case, where may the good folks find you online?
This Sunday, reviewing Star Wars Resistance because Season 2 is finally coming back. # Viva la Resistance. Very excited, of course, for it. So that's going to be a lot of fun. Also, at Dutch Movie Guy on Twitter, Kees on Facebook and Letterboxd. And yes, unlike Dohmen, I actually do log films on Letterboxd when I watch them.
I logged Joker.
Oh, yeah, that's one movie in like 10 weeks. And of course, Schmodown reactions. There are 2 big ones coming up next week. Roka Kalinowski and Bibbs versus Irwin. I mean, aren't you excited? Look out for the reactions.
Yes. Very excited for that one. And speaking of William Bibiani, yes, ladies and gentlemen, he will be on the show next week alongside his critically acclaimed co-host, Whitney Seibold, for the launch of the Critically Acclaimed Network, as well as Whitney to do a little promotion for his upcoming audio drama, which, if you are a patron of the Critically Acclaimed podcast like I am, you got early access to that. So make sure you check that out if you're on their Patreon. But, of course, you guys can always find me on Twitter, Instagram, Stardust, Letterboxd, and Discord at Skywalker Dohmen. You guys can follow this very channel on Twitter and Instagram at D2A Channel. Please like our Facebook page and join our Facebook group. And, of course, as we mentioned, hashtag Viva la Resistance, hashtag China Sticks. Guys, this is an exciting time. We have a lot of new shit coming for the rest of the year. I know Case is excited. I'm excited. Nico is sure as fuck excited. So until then, you know what to do. Take care!
Yeah!